Hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good night, good whatever time of day it is, wherever you're watching, and welcome to the stream. Um, if you were looking for me on Tuesday, I was on vacation. I apologize for that, but well, no, I don't apologize for taking a vacation. It's my life. But anyway, I'm back now, and I had a good, relaxed time, and we're ready to get back into this. So tonight we are going to be starting in Kent, Ohio, and we will be replicating at the very least the first half of the leg that Cal Rodgers did on September the 30th, 1911. So my initial goal for today is to get to it from Kent, Ohio to Mansfield, Ohio, and if possible, maybe a bit farther than that. We'll see how this goes. Or, anywho. All right. Gorgeous morning here, gorgeous fall morning here in Ohio, here in Kent, Ohio. Gorgeous, gorgeous Curtis JN4 Jenny. Got to see one of these in the flesh, so to speak, this past week, and that was cool. Would have been cooler if it were flying, but I assume there have to be airworthy Jennies around somewhere. Before I ignite this bird, let me pull up the. Okay, so if these are the hangar buildings, then I'm at the end of the runway I want to be at. All right. Fuel. Ignition. Choke. All right, and throttle and propeller. Okay. So Rodgers had arrived at Kent, Ohio on the 28th of September, and you'll notice that you'll notice I said the 30th. Now he ended up being stuck here for a day due to unfavorable winds. Which, yeah, vintage aircraft, you did not take them, or aircraft of this vintage, you really didn't want to be taking them off in less than ideal weather. It's one of the reasons we've had nice blue skies this whole time. No, I want to be on the runway. What is, I don't know what the taxi guidance is doing. Alright. Anyway. Runway, and as usual, the challenge here is going to be to find the correct route to follow. If you weren't here for the last one, it was a bit of a shit show. Hoping for better this time around. We shall see. Alright. Up and away. Now, I have been to Kent, like, once. Is there, like, supposed to be that? Okay, we got river. We have train. There should be a second one farther to the south that I should be following. Off to my traditional start of not having any clue where I am, I see. Alright, well, we'll figure this out. I do have the lifeline option, I just have to self-flagellate for your amusement if I do that. Could also try flying higher. I guess that's an option too. Or I could head here, which I'm going to assume is downtown Akron. I got options. Again, what in the name? I don't think this is a real thing. Wherever this is. That looks like a mall. Maybe. Maybe. Looks like could be a smokestack, but it looks disproportionately large. I don't feel like going out of my way to look for it. Look at whatever it is. I'm already lost. Alright, here we go. Highway intersection. So, probably safe to assume it's this highway. What direction am I at here? Welcome to Akron, Ohio, home of Goodyear and maybe other tires. I don't remember. It's tire capital of the U.S., which is a very exciting thing to be known for. Say this for Goodyear, at least they actually are made in America. I wonder if that's my rail line. I think that's a stadium with some misplaced buildings. There was some misplaced procedural buildings. Interesting. I think it's this stadium, and I think I am here. So we are going to veer to the east. West. Boy, am I in trouble if I can't remember my damn directions. I hope I figure out where this goddamn rail line is. Ooh, pedestrian skywalk. We love to see it. Aha! Train. Okay. We're back on track. Not apologizing for that pun. So I think unlike... So this is another either Norfolk Southern or CN Railway. Maybe or Norfolk Southern, CSX, or CN Railway. I don't know. Don't feel like looking up which off the top of my head, but this was the Atlantic and Great Western Railroad back in the day, and it should take us all the way to Marion, I think. If I can keep track of it. Again, not going to apologize for making any track puns. Okay, so the railroad crossing, whatever height, 76 maybe, that would put us here, just north of New Portage. So it looks like I gotta look out for a split in the railway pretty close to here. When it does split, I want to make sure I'm following the one that goes west. Watch me end up in Kentucky. I'm gonna try Dead Reckoning for a bit. Yeah, I'm not feeling confident that I found this turn off here. So I want to be going this way, and I think that's not the way I'm going. 8 degrees. Oh dear, that's too far. 8 degrees west. It's gonna be clockwise, anti-clockwise. Yeah, I'm lost. Orange drank, or purple drank time. Get this ready here. Yeah, that tastes like nothing on this earth. Or nothing of this earth. Wow. Okay. I am very far south of where I needed to be. It looks like if I keep heading this basic direction, get back to where I need to be. Okay. I think I am prepared to turn this back off and go back to seat of the pants navigation. All right, here we are, Rittman, Ohio, and we got train line. All right. I'm feeling good for now. See if it stays that way. Ugh, oh god. There's the real punishment. That pairs very poorly with my other drink. Ugh. Okay, so this, I'm gonna guess, is Sterling, Ohio. And that is this rail line here that splits off to the north. I'm not following that. Oh no. Lovely, more non-extent railways coming up. My favorite. All right. Alright, so my plan is to follow this railway till I get to this highway intersection here, and then we'll follow the highway for a bit, and I'll figure out what I'm doing from there. At least I know where I am. Or at least I have my bearings. I mean, I went into this with the intention of following the original route as closely as possible, and I just don't think that's going to be doable. Hello. Samblex. Are you a flight simmer? Are you a real person? It's my altitude. No, it doesn't. I think I'm probably higher than I need to be. Okay, Burbank, Ohio. Mall. Okay, so what's the best way to get from here to here? Best way to get from there to there without getting lost, more importantly. Hi, Feathers. Lurking, huh? I tried summoning you earlier by making train puns. I guess it worked, maybe. You missed the train puns, so... Well, this is about the heading I should be doing by Dead Reckoning. Ooh. And this looks kind of like a rail grade. Maybe I can do this without getting lost. Fair enough. All right, so to catch you up on the history, we are in the middle of Ohio, flying from Kent to Mansfield. This flight took place. The original took place on September the 30th, 1911. gorgeous fall morning. You also missed me getting lost and having to do the purple drink, but I think I've got myself figured out now. That I'm going to assume is this drag strip labeled here. And I can understand why they felt the need to label it, because that would be incredibly easy to confuse for an airport. All right, West Salem, Ohio. So how's your last week or so? But if you are able to type, been imagine it's been quite wild with the new public appearance. I got to see one of these. I got to see Curtis JN4 in the flesh. That was fun. A lot of other planes too. Okay, this is kind of what I'm expecting the Midwest to be like for the most part. Like, we got these, we got the rail line, and it's still largely covered in trees, but on the other hand, the trees are all lined up in such a way it makes it pretty obvious where the rail line is. It's a little bit more, a little less overly forested than the Northeast was. Yeah, so because of a commercial that happened during last week's TV thing, I ended up eating at a Culver's for the first time 2 days ago. It wasn't bad. I'd do it again if I were in Culver's territory. I left the Midwest before they became a thing. Oh, neat. Yeah, the one I went to was in Columbus. I've had too many good experiences in Ohio recently. I'm almost tempted to say nice things about it. This is bad. Yeah, I saw Redvox in Detroit, and Vinny very quickly learned the trick to pleasing Michigan audiences, which is just shit talk Ohio. He also positively reviewed Detroit pizza, although he crucially did not say where he went. Which I think is pretty important. This is a very relaxing and meditative plane to fly. I can't believe they were teaching people how to shoot each other in this thing. Ooh, maybe. No. They should have smoked a bowl. I don't know. In 1910s. I don't know about that, but maybe some opium. Trying to fly and get something set up here. This is Ashland, Ohio, which is right on the edge of the Cleveland terminal area, so hence the chart getting sort of weird here. So we have up here we have the higher detailed Cleveland terminal area chart, and then down here we just have the sectional chart, which is about half the scale. And that's why the chart looks like this right now. Let's see what happens if I do this. Ooh, yeah. All right. Yeah, here's a real Curtiss JN4 that I saw at the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force. And here's a close-up of the engine. Curtiss OX5 V8. And the other side. And here, I didn't know this was going to be on display. That is a Wright Model B, which is very similar to what the VinFizz was. And actually, Cal Rodgers' train caravan had a spare one of these on it that they used for parts, and then also he would do demonstration flights occasionally in that plane instead of the VinFizz. Great museum. And I think I want to say this is my favorite plane of all time, the F-117 attack fighter, or stealth attack fighter. Because, I mean, look at it. They did a its aerodynamics were so funky that they had to use fly-by-wire to make it steerable at all. It was nicknamed the Galloping Goblin by people who had to fly it. Also, the anti-radar coating that it used was super toxic. And there's a picture. They're like the only picture of this that exists. Is not great. Actually, let me concentrate on figuring out where I'm going for a second here. Okay, this way. Yeah, the only picture of this that exists is like not very high quality, but when they were delivering it to a museum, to one of the ones that's a museum piece now, when they were delivering it, they stripped all of the radar deflected coating on it and painted it up like this. And this is just one of my favorite pictures of an airplane. But yeah, so I had a really good time. Not going to turn this into show Michael's vacation photos, the stream, but just a couple of highlights. I don't think we've gotten to Mansfield yet. Mansfield should be pretty recognizable. Direction am I going right now? think I'm here. Let's see if it sharply turns to the south here. So the speedometer, well, okay, so in this case, it's probably like, well, on the it's just like on an app here, so it's probably fudging it, it's probably using GPS or something like that. So this plane didn't natively have one. What would happen, the way it works on, so the way it works on most planes. Sure hope this ends up turning the way I'm expecting it to. The way it works on most planes, anyway, is that there's a little tube facing forward, usually on one of the wings, or on the fuselage, or like on the front fuselage there, called a pitot, that measures incoming air pressure. Incoming air pressure as being rammed onto it by the, okay, that's Mansfield Regional. Alright. So it measures air pressure as being rammed onto it by the forward airspeed. And then there's a second hole, there's a hole somewhere on a sort of aerodynamically inconspicuous part of the fuselage called a static port that measures the air pressure, that just measures the ambient air pressure. And so the speedometer, so on an actual airplane, the speedometer works by measuring the difference in pressure between the forward-facing pitot tube and the static port. And if there's a lot of things you have to do to make sure the pitot port stays, to make the pitot and static ports are, you have to make sure that they're clean and unblocked and don't ice up, and lots of plane crashes have been caused by that, by malfunctions with the pitot tubes and or static ports. Some modern planes have GPS GPS-based speedometers, but they are not considered, for one reason or another. GPS is never considered the primary navigation or primary measurement method. Now I don't know, there must be a static port somewhere on here, because this does have an altimeter, but that's also how the altimeter works, is it measures the ambient air pressure, and the thing is you have to calibrate, so you have to calibrate the speedometer based on the ambient air pressure of where you're flying, or based on the estimated sea level air pressure of where you're flying. And then it compares that to the air pressure outside when you're flying. And then once it's calibrated, the static port compares the air pressure, and that's how you tell what your altitude is. Anyway, this is Mansfield, Ohio. Mansfield, Ohio was, or well, still is home to the Ohio State Penitentiary. Not the original. The original building's now like a museum, tour house, etc. It's been used to film movies, but there is actually still a state penitentiary in Mansfield, Ohio. If you want a good overview of that, can't give you a timestamp off the top of my head, but Noah Caldwell Gervais's video on the Lincoln Highway covers it and echoes pretty closely what my feelings on the place are. I've driven through Mansfield. I haven't stopped. I think this is the current pen. That looks like a prison. Something here. I think this might be the current penitentiary. Certainly looks like one. Maybe this. Different things to follow out here, which is always lovely. Love trying to figure out which way I need to be going. West. So let's see if there's one of these that's roughly... Yeah, here we go. This is another spot where it looks like the railway line I need is not there. I might follow the highway instead. Let's see. I did. Very nice job, both of you. I would be... I mean, I'd say I'm jealous that you didn't call me, but also I would have been at a complete loss, so it's for the best that you didn't. So I'm curious, and you can tell me, like, if you prefer to answer this in a different place, then that's fine. But did ABC set you up with Ben Affleck, or what happened there? Yeah, that's what I figured. Look at the size of that building. I'm gonna guess either factory or Amazon warehouse. Yeah, that's. I mean, I figured out that I was able to like interpret that. I was able to interpret the reasoning you two were paired up, but yeah, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure who made. It makes sense that it wasn't you that made the arrangements, but yeah. feet. I do not need to be this high. It is interesting how Millionaire went from some very softball, like the first 2/3 of the questions I thought were pretty softball, which I know that's just how Millionaire works, and then those last three or two or three were hard. so this would be this Galleon Municipal here. I don't think I'm that far from... I don't think I'm that far from Marion at this point. Oh, hey, Vias. Yeah, flying over, Galleon, Ohio. We're approaching Galleon, Ohio. Galleon, Ohio. There. Yeah. So yeah, this is, started in Kent. And now we're, headed to Marion, which is we're sort of getting into the east here. We're north of Columbus. I don't really know what else to say as far as like landmarks. I think we're north of Columbus. Let's see, where's Columbus relative to where we are? Yeah, so like I said, I think we're about here. I'm about here. Columbus is to the south. Cleveland's to the northeast. Yeah, it is certainly flat now, which it wasn't before. Here, I popped it up before, but since you weren't here, I'll pop it up again. I got to see a Curtis JN4 in the flesh a couple days ago, and that was cool. That was in Ohio, so, you know, you got something there. Yes. Yes, same plane. Not quite the same livery, but... Oh man, you know what else is cool? A railway that's actually easy to follow. Look at this. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. I could... Oh man. I could cry. On that note, let's see. I can't quite read these. 3, 5... we're gonna say about 20 miles left, if that. It's also mostly along the same vector, which is also helpful. What altitude is Marion at? 993 feet. So I'm well over 1,000 feet above ground right now. Yeah, this is Ohio. Oh boy. Look at that seasonal gradient. I'm going to guess that the satellite images these are based on were taken at different times of the year. Look at that gradient. The lack thereof. Well, I mean, this is still the fastest anyone has traversed. This is still more or less the fastest anybody had ever traversed this territory. So, historically. We're still in the steam train. I don't know. I don't know when we started converting the steam trains from coal to diesel, but probably not proliferated yet. Diesel probably hadn't proliferated yet. I mean, this is advanced as planes got at the time. Most of the U.S. So yeah, World War I was happening when this plane was built, but the U.S. actually didn't have, or when this plane was built, but the U.S. actually didn't build very many planes that were sent overseas for World War I. Most of the American combat was done in either the British Sopwith Camel or the French Spad 13. In fact, Eddie Rickenbacker, the most famous ace of World War I, flew a French airplane. And in fact, didn't even know how. In fact, he didn't even fly. He didn't even. Yeah, he had never flown a plane before when he got to France in 1916 or whenever. 16, 17, whenever that was. The demands on pilots were different then. Suffice to say. That might or might not be my runway. I'm gonna get closer first, though. Yeah. I think Eddie Rickenbacker was already an established race car driver before the war, so that wasn't an uncommon pipeline. That wasn't an uncommon pipeline. I mean, cars were only like a couple decades older than the airplane, but they had proliferated quite a bit more. Even going into World War II, most U.S. pilots hadn't touched an airplane when they were enlisted, so yeah. There was an exhibit on it at the Air Force Museum, in fact. Or on the training process. That is probably my runway. Still pretty far out, though. There's the requisite clanker. Let me see something here. Be gone, bot. Yeah, wow, when there's no terrain, the runways are visible for like very long way away. So, so on the 30th of September, 1911, Cal Rodgers stopped in Marion, or stopped, well, first he actually stopped in Mansfield, Ohio, which we just bypassed because fuel, because I got way more fuel than I need for that. Then did a second stop in Mansfield, in Marion, Ohio, which is where we're landing here. In Marion, Ohio, Cal Rodgers received an official reception by local pillar of the community, newspaper owner, and at the time, former Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, one Warren G. Harding. Who had just lost a race to become, just lost a race for Senate, I think, in 1910. But, yeah. Whatever became of that guy. I remember watching the most boring documentary ever about Warren G. Harding in U.S. history. And it's, yeah. Didn't do much for my opinion of him. I thought I was low, but I was high, like usual. I am very bad at this eyeballing glide slopes thing. Maybe it's easier in 3D. Alright, I'm happy with that landing. Slow down sufficiently to make this turn, that'd be lovely. Don't flip. Do not flip. Do not flip. Oh god, do not flip. Get off the grass. Get off the grass. I'm frightened. Okay. Woo! Alright. Concrete. Alright, so that is the first 100 miles. of the trip, or of the September 30th trip, Cal managed to cover about 200, and the question now is, if I were to do another 100 miles, hour and a half, let's say, would either of you stay? All right. Well, let me get that set up here. Load. All right. Well, then let me get that set up. This airport I have to try to find at the end here is going to be a real fucking doozy. Let's see, so 857, okay. Runway 25 and runway 25 and 1. Let's see, 7. Wait. Sorry, I'm doing some math here. 12. Okay, 6:31. 31. Okay. Alright, so custom, change the wind. Clock ahead a bit. Okay. Fuel. All right. Okay. Let's get the plane started back up. All right, so we push forward to the afternoon of September 30th. He'd made 100 miles so far. He'd actually taken off like in the morning as planned and made 100 miles so far, so things were going pretty good. Oh no. No, 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 no. Why is it do? Why it do? Wasn't going that fast. Alright, so the lesson here is to hold the stick all the way back the entire time you're taxiing. Farther. Still holding the yoke all the way back. This is getting tiring. This isn't a runway. What the hell? That's a runway. Wait, was I on the runway? Oh no. Okay, you know what? We're just gonna very carefully try to get back over the runway. Nope, nope, doesn't like that. Okay. Get this set back up. $25. Yeah.
Kilo Mike November traffic. Shoot 12 tree. Taking off runway 25. Straight out departure. Kilo Mike November.
Oh, look at that. We're at the runway. How about that? All right, taking off.
Cleveland Airport information, Charlie. 0000
No.
Zulu. Wind tree 17 at 4. Visibility, Niner.
Why? I don't even have a radio on this. Why is it doing this? Okay. Okay, Marion, Ohio, which I actually don't know anything about Marion, Ohio as it currently exists. So I'm looking for a rail trail at about 284 degrees. Magnetic. Too far north right now. Let's try that. Yeah, the Warren G. Harding thing's the only thing I know about Marion, Ohio. So, now we've gotten that one out of the way. I didn't know that's what... I did not know that's what the G stood for. Gamma-meal? Gamma-leal? Yeah, so for this leg of the flight, we're headed to Lima, and then Rivarre, Ohio, which is just before Decatur. If I remember correctly, the goal that Rodgers had set for himself for the second half of September 30th was Huntington, Indiana. Which I can certainly sympathize with the desire to get out of Ohio as quickly as possible. But I'll get into how that worked out later, or as we get there. Nah, that's going too far north. Alright, that must be this guy. Keep going this way. Well, again, the goal here is to look for... I think that this is a rail trail and not an extant railway. And the goal here is to find this, and it should be going a little bit north of west. I guess if I don't figure out where it is... If I get to this railway without crossing it, then I'll go head north. Yeah, the closest, unfortunately, the closest runway to, where Rodgers would actually land is a real doozy. It's going to be a real doozy of a grass strip to, like, locate and probably not land on. This thing's pretty easy to land, but it's going to be a doozy to locate. Well, that's the thing, is that he didn't so much locate where he landed in Indiana, or on this. He didn't so much locate as desperately, rather desperately chose to land where he did. And I don't have his turn of the century grit. I don't have his turn of the century wake up with a cigar in your mouth and go to bed with a different cigar in your mouth grit. And spend the day with approximately 5 more cigars in your mouth. According to the book I'm reading, never figure out that you're supposed to take off and land into the wind and not with the wind. Yeah, the Midwest. Look at that. Look at that endless... Look at this endless fucking... Yeah, because we're pretending it's 1911, I can't even go to a Culver's. Or a Buc-ee's, which I thought was mostly a South thing, but apparently they have those in Ohio too. something here that's heading a tiny bit more north than like a tiny bit north of west, and I bet that's what I was looking for earlier. Well, at least I found it now. Yeah, okay. I think we are approaching Kenton. Always makes me happy to actually know where I am, so that's good. Junkyard, I think. Yeah, it's got to be a junkyard. Golf course. Airport. Okay. Horse racing track, I'm guessing. Alright, let's give Kenton a little wave. Okay. Try not to lose the plane doing that one wave. Alright, now we got another long stretch of not very much. I think the Hopewell Mounds should be around here somewhere, but I don't know 100% where to look for them. Oh, much farther south. Never mind. So I don't have anything prepared. Like, I should probably start preparing stuff for stretches like this. I'm thinking of pulling up some public domain movies for future flights. But like I said, I don't have anything ready right now. And I need to be careful about it, about pre-code stuff, because something like Man with a Movie Camera could get me banned on Twitch. That looks like a rail trail, but it's not marked here. Still pretty sure I'm going the way I want to be. If I'm anywhere near where I think I am, those windmills aren't marked on here either. High school. So I think we're at this bend here. Boy, if I'm somewhere other than that, oh boy. Yeah, alright, yeah, because that matches this road. This road here kind of matches this. So, okay. Navigating for fun and profit. Or something. feeling good. I'm feeling good about that. I'm feeling good about being where I think I am right now. Should make this here coming up Harrod, Ohio, which is about the halfway point of this leg. I'm trying to look at my instruments here for a minute. Alright, well I think it's safe to say the plane's not overheating. Okay, I think I see Lima Allen County up ahead here. Or if this railway is defunct. This is definitely the rail grade, but it certainly doesn't look like there's train tracks running through it. Well, it got me to Lima, so I'm happy. For now. Ohio sure does have a lot of places that are named after other places. Insert joke about wanting to be somewhere other than Ohio here. Okay, so if we go southeast from here, or southwest from here, we end up in Wapakoneta, Ohio, and an airport down there named after some Neil Armstrong guy. The man who got as far away from Ohio as it is possible to go, or as any human has ever gone. Inspiration to us all. Actually, it's not true. As of 2026, I believe the crew of Artemis 2 has gotten as far from Ohio as any human being has gone. And before that, it was actually Apollo 13 had gone the farthest away from the Earth. Jim Lovell's not from Ohio, is he? Was he? Oh yeah. Oh, okay. There we go. Jim Lovell got as far away from Ohio as any human being had ever gone. There's the inspiration. And that is an oil refinery. So there you go. So if you weren't convinced that you needed a reason to get as far away from Ohio as possible, I say while flying a plane using dino juice. God, that is so ugly. I suspect that's not the case, but we can pretend. I apologize to any would-be Ohio viewers. Any would-be Ohioan viewers here. If you can't tell, I'm from Michigan, so, yeah. Or if all the jokes at Ohio's expense haven't given it away. Well, I mean, okay, let's be fair here. We're playing a flight simulator, and the Wright brothers were from Ohio. Again, make whatever jokes you want about trying to leave the Earth. Glenn Curtis was not from Ohio. I think Glenn Curtis was from New York. Yeah. It should be a mark of shame on all Pennsylvanians that Ohio has legal weed and we don't. I'll say that. It's a mark of deep shame. It should be a mark of deep shame. I do not endorse using cannabinoid substances, especially whilst operating an airplane. Well, especially whilst operating a real airplane. Fake airplane, yeah, you know, it's probably fine. I'm not. Sometimes your plane just sort of like it mostly goes straight, but not quite, and it's very annoying. So we got this stream here, which would be this stream. That would make this Spencerville. another long stretch of not much. From the looks of it, about 30 miles left. Basically entirely in this heading. On this heading. Let me zoom back in so I can actually see any noteworthy. So I can keep track of any possible noteworthy landmarks. Doesn't look like there's much, but okay, it looks like at Ohio City I've got to try to I got to decide whether I'm going to try to dead reckon this or follow this. First, I got to figure out when I'm actually... First trick is going to be figuring out when I'm at Ohio City. I will say this, the range on this plane certainly exceeds what the projection for it was. I don't know what I'm doing right. Okay, based on, I'm guessing this is Elgin here, which, based on my not having set a waypoint for it, means it either didn't exist or didn't have a train station back when in 1911. Or yeah, didn't exist or didn't merit a train station back in 1911. Given that there's a big old oil refinery there. Or maybe that's a grain. That could be grain. Does not want to fly straight. Alright, so I think this is Ohio City. And so the question is, do I want to follow this and risk it disappearing somewhere around about here? Or do I want to follow the other line to the south? Do I even see another line to the south? Ah, yuck. That rail grade's not very well. If that's it. Alright, straight it is. Straight it is, something like 15 miles to go. Quote the Beatles, soon we'll be away from here. Should be reasonably self-evident if I get too far, if I end to go too far and end up in Decatur. I think. Anyway, so history. September 30th, we're at somewhere around 4:30-ish, 4:35 p.m. in the afternoon. Somewhere past Ohio City, Rodgers started having problems with the ignition system again. The magneto breakers, or magneto fuses started popping again. And so he flew a bit further, but eventually would circle down to a field in the basically non-existent community of Rivarre, Indiana, then known as Bobo, apparently. Might or might not be Glenmore. But yeah, it's essentially a farming community, and this is one of the funnier anecdotes of the whole thing. So Cal Rodgers lands his plane, or lands the Vinfiz in a farmer's field, and this field happened to be the home of a bull that was offended by the noise and everything that this thing that had landed in its field had made. And Cal had to imitate or had to do like a I forget what he had to do a matador move and distract the bull away from the plane, and the bull ended up chasing him into a tree, where he was stuck until the farmer actually came out to see what all this commotion was. Presumably said something about, well, what's going on here? And Cal said, "Get that thing away from my airplane." If memory serves, they actually ended up taking the train to Huntington for the night and then back to where the plane was stashed as well. But yeah, one of the funnier stories, or one of the funniest mishaps of the whole thing. I am going to try not to avoid any situations like that by landing on an actual landing strip. But again, it's a grass landing strip that's not marked very well. It's not even on my chart. I do know it's there, but yeah. I do know it's there. I looked up satellite images of it, but yeah, this is going to be a doozy. Okay. So I know what I'm looking for. And the question is simply... where is it? Okay. That looks like a match. Alright. Circle, I think. Seems pretty high up. Okay. Alright. Good lord. Okay, so I would not have been able to find this out without cross-referencing the satellite images, but it's this. It's this, and I would never... It just would not have been able to find that without... Oh, boy. Some low here. Good news is we're no longer in Ohio. I was supposed to land on this. None of this looks that much like a runway. Make a note to self to try to pick real runways from here on out. Might as well get attacked by a bull here. Okay. And Yeah. Where's the sprint button? All right, whatever. Yeah, so Rivarre, Indiana, such as it is. All right, so I'll be back to the normal schedule next week. Oh yeah, so I guess I should say that is as far as he got on September 30th. So yeah, I'll be back to normal schedule next week. So Tuesday and Thursday at 7 Eastern. From there, we're going to be doing... so we're probably maybe 2 streams away from... maybe 1 or 2 streams away from Chicago. So we got that to look forward to. And then we get real Midwest shit. But yeah, so between now and then, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time in the skies. How do you like that for a catchphrase?